I'm gonna start my share screening here. I'm really happy to be here today, so thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope you can see my presentation right now. Is it visible? Great.
Yes.
Great. So we started in 2019, the Umalumba. Umalumba stands for the House of Dolphins, Uma in Balinese. The worldwide first rehabilitation and sanctuary for ex-performing dolphins. I first always said ex-captive dolphins, but they are at this moment still captive, but we're going to free them. That's the whole purpose. So this is a project that has been started with different parties together. So we are the Jakarta Animal Aid Network. I'm a co-founder of this organization, active in Indonesia since 2002, protecting wildlife. The program is supervised and supported by Rick O'Barry's Dolphin Project. Most of you probably have heard or seen the film The Cove. If not, I recommend to see it. It's a very powerful film explaining all the facts behind the captive dolphin industry. Then we work together with the national government, Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan, so the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, because dolphins fall under the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia. And with the National Park in Karimun Jawa, because this is where the dolphins originally are captured to be used in the entertainment industry, and with the conservation authorities here in Bali and the National Park in West Bali. These are our partners within this program. As Indonesia has over 17,000 islands, we deal with a lot of issues concerning strandings, concerning marine mammal protection in general. So we've always been very much involved with marine mammal rescues, setting up a stranding network in Indonesia. So for example, if there's a sperm whale or a dolphin stranded anywhere, then we have now a really strong, powerful network collaborating around the country. So for example, this is a stranding that was recently in Madura, over 36 dolphins stranded, pilot whales stranded. And then our team is immediately in the field together with the local government institutions and also other NGOs. And then one of the main issues that we encountered was the last traveling dolphin show, which was happening here in Indonesia. So there was a circus that would place dolphins in a truck and move them from city to city, from village to village to perform in tiny chlorinated plastic pools. And we've been campaigning against this abuse because we were actually getting full support by the government, but it was really difficult to stop it legally because the circus owners were using loopholes in the existing law on biodiversity in Indonesia. So therefore, it took us over 10 years to finally close down this abuse. So dolphins even had to jump through hoops of fires, and they had to perform silly tricks for the public. So these are all wild captured dolphins. They were all taken from the ocean in Karimun Jawa. I'll fast forward it. This is how they transported the dolphins. So they place them on trucks and then they move them to the next village. So we held this long campaign. We gained a lot of support also from students, universities around Indonesia, also on the international level. People were really pleading to see an end to this abuse because this was world's last dolphin traveling show. So there was a stamp on Indonesia for allowing this to happen. The whole world was watching. There was a lot of criticism towards this show that just seemed never ending. But finally, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry managed to stop it. Here we were doing different campaigns to raise the issue. So this is like a puppet show for the local children in different villages, where we explain about the need to protect the ocean in general and keep the ocean free, certainly of plastics, and where we raised the issues of animal welfare and the protection of our environment. So these campaigns were running throughout Indonesia, but focused mostly on Java and Bali, because this is where the circus would operate. And here we also develop like different educational booklets that we distribute to different schools in Java, Bali, but also in some parts in Sumatra. We also placed billboards. We worked together with different companies who supported our campaign. For example, we also had a billboard at the Bali International Airport, because Bali is one of the main locations where sadly captive dolphins are still being used, and where people come to really visit dolphins in captivity. So Bali had 4 attractions where dolphins were held captive. While actually in Bali, it's so easy to see them in the wild, and it's so nice to see them out in the open ocean. So we were campaigning and assisting also in some villages to promote ecotourism in a friendly way, and to close down these horrific swimming pools where the dolphins are held captive. We also ran with like different artists, like we made beautiful murals. Maybe some of you who work and live in Bali have seen them. The campaign launched like 6 years ago, and it's called Free Bali Dolphins, because Bali became this major hub for captive dolphins. It was a really big issue, and actually we saw in that time more places opening than closing. So we had this like, let's say, beautiful art campaign around the island. And this was on the Bali airport. And this was all supported by the public, which allowed us to pay for this. Then these are some actions done by different students, universities. And finally, after over 10 years of campaigning, the world's cruelest dolphin traveling show was shut down. So there was no more traveling around with dolphins. But as Bali was such a hub for dolphins in captivity, many dolphins ended up in Bali in swimming pools. One of these places is the Melka Hotel in Lovina. Some of you might have been there. It was quite famous for people wanting to see dolphins. They would go to the Melka Hotel and they would find 6 bottlenose dolphins in a tiny chlorinated swimming pool, suffering tremendously purely to entertain visitors. This was in 2011 when we did our first survey to the Melka Hotel. And this was our first survey in 2013 when a new place opened in Keramas. So these dolphins, ironically, were placed really close to the ocean. If they could lift up their heads, they could see the ocean, but they were held captive in this horrific tiny swimming pool. In the time, we received a lot of support and a lot of notice from like surfers, people who visited the area. Everybody was really outraged by the fact that these dolphins were held in this tiny swimming pool. And there were 5, and it was very, very shallow. So they couldn't even dive at all. It was horrible. This place was also closed down in 2017 after a lot of public outrage and the right support of the local government. So we managed to close that place down, but sadly those dolphins were relocated to another captive facility in Java. So they were not being released. This is the Melka Hotel. So if you can see, this is just the hotel, and then you'll find 2 swimming pools connected where they would keep 6 dolphins to entertain visitors. People like to swim with them. People pay a lot of money to be kissed or hold a dolphin. So they were there in that tiny swimming pool, which is under the netting. So actually they also didn't really have enough shade, and the pools were highly chlorinated. And yeah, as you all know, if we swim in a swimming pool, it hurts our eyes, and dolphins are swimming in those chlorinated swimming pools 24/7. So it's really cruelty in its worst. And we did everything we could to release them. So after our campaign, which focused on trying to educate the public not to visit these captive facilities, and which also focused on lobbying the government to do the right thing, we saw some results. Here you see the dolphins are being used to ride, to clap, and do all these silly tricks. In August 2019, 2 dolphins had died. And we were approached by the central government, which is our partner, the Ministry of Forestry and Environment, to relocate and rehabilitate these dolphins from the Melka Hotel. So this was like a huge step for the dolphins and also for all of us involved, because we have been working towards that moment for so many years. And then suddenly we had to do it fast. We didn't have the facility yet up, and we just had to make it happen. So here you see Rico Berry. He's world specialist in dolphins. He's been a dolphin trainer himself. He's trained Flipper, the dolphin, in the 60s, and then he founded Dolphin Project. Rico Berry came to supervise the whole project. And here he's sitting with my son at the swimming pool the day before the relocation. The swimming pool, as you can see, it's tiny, it's chlorinated, and it's disgusting. The dolphins all have had like horrible problems and mental and physical issues. So their blood results were horrible. We couldn't move them. They were really sick. And one of the dolphins, his name was Dewa, you can see him here. He was even hurting himself. So he would throw himself against the side of the pool and there was blood everywhere. Besides that, Dewa also didn't have any teeth, which is also the case with one of the dolphins now in our rehabilitation facility. They also had severe eye problems because of the chlorine. This is Johnny. He's the oldest, and he also doesn't have any teeth. This is also because of the chlorinated water that affects their general health and well-being. This is Dewa. It's not nice footage to watch, but this is what was happening in the swimming pool every day. So when we were allowed to relocate them, we had to take blood samples, we had to check them, and we were shocked by the conditions, and we were actually amazed how they could still be alive with such bad results. But then the moment came where the facility was closed down, and we prepared the facility for them to be relocated to. So we went there with the forestry, like the local conservation authorities, and to prepare the relocation. The relocation of dolphins is not easy. Surely it's really difficult for them to be out of the water. So we have to move fast and very professionally, and we needed a lot of manpower. Here's the moment where the dolphins are being lifted out of those tiny chlorinated swimming pools. This is Rambo. He's the most stocky of them all, so he deserves the name. And this is the facility that was built in Bali. This is right at the border of the national park, Bali National Park. And the location is fantastic. The water is clear. There's not too much current. It's close to the outside bay. So it's perfect to rehabilitate the dolphins. And we are lucky that we have the full support of the national park authorities and also the conservation authorities here in Bali to make this happen. So when first Indonesia had this bad reputation of having the world's last cruel dolphin traveling show, now Indonesia can be proud to be a pioneer in the rehabilitation of dolphins, because this is the first permanent rehabilitation facility and sanctuary for those dolphins that in the future, if they're not releasable, we need to create like we would use a part of a bay somewhere else, but this is so they have more access to a whole bay. That's the future, but at this moment, this is the first facility where we can rehabilitate those ex-performing dolphins. It's not open for the public because we want the dolphins to become wild again. We don't want to have visitors because then we would be stamped as being the same like all the other commercial facilities. But we do allow visitors to see what we're doing there through CCTV or through interactive like presentations, films, which we all like to share because we're really proud of what we have seen. We have seen that the rehabilitation works. We have seen the results. The dolphins are whole different dolphins right now. This is the moment where we relocated them. This is inside the boat on the way to the sea pen. This is Johnny. He's our grandpa. He's the oldest of all of them. He's about 30 years. And this is the moment where we release them in the sea. And you can imagine the feel of relief for the whole team and everybody as soon as they touched seawater, because dolphins simply belong in the ocean, and we could immediately feel also their relief. Like inside the chlorinated swimming pool, they are suffering so much. So here you see Dewa touching the ocean, and this is a small film about that moment. So, and this is Johnny. Now he's swimming between fish, while in a chlorinated swimming pool, surely there's nothing but just concrete. So now they learn how to hunt, to chase. This is the moments where we introduce them to live fish. Because surely we cannot just release them. They need to undergo a very long rehabilitation process. We observe them with underwater cameras, and we're always trying to improve this system. So if anybody has any ideas like better cameras, or we're always really open for any support on this, because we need to monitor them underwater, because in the beginning the dolphins would float and spend a lot of time on the surface, and now we hardly see them because they spend 80% of their time deep inside the water. So this is when we just introduce live fish, because in the swimming pool, they've always been fed just pieces of fish, which is like a treat, as if you're training a dog and you're just giving a treat for every trick they need to do. So here the dolphins are feeling and touching for the first time after all those years live fish again. We created a special foraging pen in which we now introduce live fish. So we don't do any hand feeding anymore of the live fish. And here they are able to chase, and we can hear their sonar use. We can hear the sounds they're making. It's incredible. They are now really chasing and hunting their own fish. The only problem is that Johnny, the older dolphin, who has lost all its teeth, he has difficulties to grasp the fish, and so he's not yet ready to be released. We observe the dolphins, so we don't sit close to them if not needed. The team really keeps a distance. We observe them by cameras, and we take daily observations of their behavior. We only still conduct monthly medical checks. This is the only time that we are close to them, that we need to handle them. We do blood work because prevention is the best medicine. We just always want to make sure that they are in a good health. And we're really happy to share that since they touched the CPAN, their health has just improved and been so balanced. So really balanced. It's incredible to see the difference. At some point, these dolphins will need to be relocated back to where they were originally captured, because this is where their family might await them. It's Karimun Jawa, it's a national park. We also have a facility there. And in the future, depending on how the pandemic will develop, and if we are able to do the relocation, Karimun Jawa is the place to be. A second option would be Bali for release, but we aim to release in Karimun Jawa. This is when we built the CPAN in Karimun Jawa. So we have a study facility there. This is the program in Karimun Jawa. These are these beautiful idyllic islands of Java. And this is the facility in Karimun Jawa. We call it Camp Lumba Lumba. So this is the pre-release pen. So the dolphins will move there. They're ready. They can catch their own fish. They're independent. And from here, we will release them. We will use GPS transmitters because we want to be able to follow them after their release. We want to be able to track them, make sure that they are doing okay. And besides, of course, the work with the dolphins, we do a lot of other work in the village where we have the centers, because it's important to have full community support. And we run like an education center here in West Bali in Pejarakan village. This is the education center in Pejarakan village. We have Wayu, who's an amazing, she works with the dolphins, but she's also an amazing dancer. She works with the local children. We also have an outreach program for the local people that had really difficulties during these last almost 2 years now because of the pandemic. So we did some work also in the village, like here we helped with the fixing of this house. And besides that, we also have a sterilization program for the animals in the area, dogs and cats. And we do also tree planting. So we have different activities next to the dolphin rehabilitation facility. And again, I'm really proud to say that Bali has become an example. This is Crete, this is Greece. Here we wish to develop a second sanctuary in the near future, because they are now learning from our center, and Europe wants to do the same thing, wants to free the dolphins and put an end to dolphins in captivity. So that was my presentation about Umalumba Bali. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Femke. Let's see if we have some questions here. It's very important work you're doing.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? You can, I assume you're able to unmute yourself right now, or just write in the chat. I'll start it off. So what did you I assume you're really, obviously you're very passionate about this work and it's very important work, but what sort of like really inspired you to go down this path?
Well, I've always been involved with animal rescue since I'm small. I've always been wanting to help animals, but then I ended up in Indonesia, like for the first time when I was 16. I visited the orangutan center, and then I realized I had the opportunity to do some practical experience there. And then I realized about the issues and about the need to have something more permanent in Indonesia to work on these issues. And that really became my motivation. I really wanted to come back to Indonesia permanently to help protect wildlife. And that was realized in 2002 when I got the opportunity, which was actually by invitation by the government, the central government, because they were dealing with so many wildlife issues, especially until now still, of course, there's a lot of problems with the trade in wildlife to abroad, like animals are being exported illegally. And in that time, there was no rescue facility. So we started the first rescue facility right next to the airport in Jakarta. And after that, developed 5 other rescue centers. Of course, I said it now really quickly, but it was a whole big project involving many different parties. But yeah, I was in that team, and I really saw that our work had a big impact, and it was really needed. So I felt useful, and until today, because we see results, and we also, of course, we get a lot of, I mean, sometimes it's frustrating and it's difficult, but when we see those results where you release animals, or the positive input and reactions from people, yeah, make it all worthwhile. So
Cool. That's amazing. So I have a question, a good question from Azucena, another one where I'm probably messing up the pronunciation. Do you have fundraising for the dolphins?
yeah, the dolphins can be supported through dolphinproject.com. You can see where you can sort of sponsor a dolphin in care, and you will get updates. So we'll update until the moment that they will be released.
Cool. I just added that in the chat.
And yeah, we're of course totally relying on public donations to run this center and do our work.
Hi, Femke.
Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Jeroen.
Yeah, I'm Jeroen. We never met in person, but we know Rodney quite well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you about the program. Are you, because I've been going around the pen in Pemutran. We couldn't go on it for sure, but just saw it. So where are you at the program now? You still have dolphins there? They're all released, or what's the timeline now for?
Yeah. Well, they were supposed to have been released, but they were ready, except for one, Johnny. And Johnny was going to get new dolphins. I mean, you can never leave a dolphin in isolation. So Rocky and Rambo were ready to be released and relocated to Karimun, Jawa. And we had everything ready. But our main issue was that Johnny couldn't stay alone, and he was going to get newly confiscated dolphins. But sadly, a new place opened up in the south of Bali, and that swimming pool has taken in those dolphins that were meant to be rehabilitated. So at this moment, we're just, yeah, that made a major impact on our whole release operation, because now we still have the 3 dolphins. And I mean, they are doing really well. They are healthy, they are stable, you know, there's no need to rush it, but we do want to see them released, of course, and we're ready for it. Now we just have to do a different strategy, because first Johnny was supposed to get new dolphin friends, let's say, and Rocky and Rambo would move on. But we also see that together, the 3 of them are such a powerful pot that we now decided that we're not going to wait. I mean, we're going to release the 3 of them, but Johnny needs some minor surgeries, and to get all the equipment in, we are now awaiting the pandemic to allow this, because some of it is in Hong Kong. So yeah, it's the pandemic that has also made it difficult for us to do the relocation, and yeah, so that's why there's some delay there. So the dolphins are still there. Yeah.
So they're still where, in Pemutran, or?
They are in, it's called, it's near the national park. It's Banyu Wedang. Yeah, Banyu Wedang Bay. It's near Pemutaran.
And then they will go finally to the other pen in Java and be released in the sea there, correct?
Yeah, yeah. They will be relocated to Java and then be released in the sea there, unless the pandemic, because in July, we had our team there and we had to pull everybody back from the island because of the pandemic. It was just exploding there at the time. And then if this, continues, let's say by the time that we can relocate and release them, which would be, we're waiting also for the good weather. So now it's like strong winds until the end of February. Usually it's not a good time to relocate and release. But if by that time the pandemic is still preventing us to do the relocation, then we're looking at Bali as an alternative for release. It's the first time that it's done here, so we need to do it right. And we have the GPS now, which also took a long time to import because it came from abroad. And yeah, as we all know here, it's sometimes difficult. So I had to wait for somebody to fly it in, but now we're ready. We're getting there.
Super cool. Well, thank you for being here. I guess we've run out of time, so I really appreciate, and everyone, I'm sure, appreciates what you're doing, and and keep up the good work.
Thank
So we
you.
have- You're welcome. And thank you.